this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 56 of the So Free Art podcast, which is a little podcast I do about art and things. And this one, you can find show notes and everything at Sophie Lawson. And what I do on these podcasts is I have a little bag here full of topics, and I'm just going to randomly pull a topic out. And I've got 3 rules, which is no editing. So I'm not allowed to edit the podcast. Not allowed to change the topic. So if you don't want to talk about the topic, you got to talk about why you don't want to talk about it, which is quite funny. And the other rule is no editing, blah blah blah, 15 minutes. You've only got 15 minutes. So I'll start a little timer, and you got to talk for 15 minutes. So again, if you run out of things to say, got to talk about why you're running out of things to say. So that's what this podcast is all about. And last week's topic was all about curating my Instagram feed, and I had a really quite interesting week after that, because what happened was, I wrote something down here. What I did was, straight after the podcast, well, not straight after, I went to sleep. And because the podcast was all about struggling with trying to curate my Instagram feed between photos and art. So that night I went to sleep, I woke up, and the next day I basically took all the photos off of my feed, so it was just about art, and that felt really good. And then a couple of days later, when I went to post the podcast, I started thinking about it again, and then all of a sudden I wanted to change it again. So I kept wanting to change it, which was like iterating in public, basically. And what I realised was it wasn't about curating the feed. It wasn't about picking between photos or art. I had it out of balance. So I had, it was a pencil drawing, a little Sophie sketch, and it was a photo. So they were equal. And that's what was wrong, or that's what I didn't like. That was what was causing the conflict. It was that there was too many photos. So the way this happened was, it was random. When I deleted all the photos, I randomly put a couple photos back, and the photo was like in the middle of the drawings, and I suddenly thought, that looks quite good. And then what also happened was, I then put a message out asking for help, or like asking for what people thought I should do. And I did it on a little pink square. So it was a little pink square with just white text. But when I looked at my feed, which happened again randomly, I looked at my feed, and this little pink square next to all the drawings, it looked really I liked it. And I suddenly thought, well, I could, because for a few years, for about a few years, I've been wanting to put quotes into my Instagram feed. And it was weird, because in this moment where I was confused about what to do, I suddenly found what I wanted to do, which was start sprinkling little quotes in between all my art. So what's going to be, the feed now is going to be all art with little bits of photos here and there, and little quotes here and there. And what I really learnt last week was, you've got to just try something, and it's when you try something that's when you find out if it's the right thing to do. And it worked really well. It was just really random, but even after that podcast, I was still a bit confused. But I feel like I've made sense of it all now, and I just had to work through it. And it was quite stressful, and it didn't need to be. It was silly, but I'm so glad it happened, because I feel like I've got a better understanding of what my feed is now, and because of this, it means I can focus on the feed. Because I've really enjoyed this past week, where I'm now focusing on other artists. It's not about, the feed isn't about me anymore, which I really like. It's about all the other artists, and I'm even putting inspirational artists into the feed, because I've got probably about 50 or so inspirational artists on the website, and again, it now flows into everything sort of come together. It was really nice. It was lots of confusion, and all of a sudden, as I just started trying things on the feed, everything started to click. So that was really nice. But that's basically, I just wanted to say about that, because you can find my Instagram at sophie.lawson, but I'll put links and everything in the show notes at sophielawson.com. And the podcast is also on YouTube, so there's a little video on it. And I recently did a video which was really fun. I recorded myself sketching. So I was sketching a little Sophie, and as I was sketching her, I was talking about it, and that was really fun. It was probably one of the most fun videos I've ever done, and I enjoyed it so much that because it was like it was like a little experiment. I thought, I'll try this, and because I was really nervous about doing it, because I've never done anything like that before. But when I did it, I enjoyed it so much. I thought, I'm going to actually make this a little feature now. So I'm going to be doing sketching videos on my YouTube, and the one I'm going to do this week, I had a little idea while I was at work. I thought, what I want to try and do is do a digital sketch of little Sophie, but do a digital sketch as if I'm working traditionally. So I'm basically going to do a digital sketch on my Surface Pro. But what I'm going to do it, I'm not allowed to use layers, I'm not allowed to use the undo, and I'm only going to be able to use a pencil, a brush, and an ink pen, but everything's got to be on one layer. It's going to be as if I'm working traditionally, and I've never done anything like that. But again, I'm really excited to see. It's like a little experiment, and it can't go wrong, because I've never done it before, so it can't go wrong. I'm just going to learn, and I think it might be quite fun, because the thing with digital is you can just undo everything, and I love that. But I just thought it would be fun to see what happens if you aren't allowed to do the undo. So I imagine it's either going to go really messy, it's either going to be like a really messy sketch. Yeah, it's either going to be totally messy, or it might be quite interesting to see if you can, like, it'd be interesting to see if you can actually do it, because at that point, if you can do that, you could work traditionally, digitally, and that would be quite fun. But that's basically it, really, for like catching up and stuff. What I'm going to do now is pick the topic. I've actually got a new little guest on the podcast now. If you go onto the video, you'll get to see him, but he's called Dennis Dennis the little doggy, and Dennis is going to be picking the topic. So I've got my little bag here. Dennis is diving into the bag, and he is pulling out a random topic. And if you've got any topics you'd like me to talk about, or any questions or anything, you can send me a message at sophielawson.com. You can do an email at contact@sophielawson.com, or leave a message in the YouTube in the comments. So Dennis has picked one. You can see it there. I like Dennis. He's quite funny, little Dennis. So that's the topic that Dennis has picked, and Dennis can go now. And the topic is, I think is it a pink one? It's a purple one. Oh no! Oh, I'm scared. I don't know if you can see that. Now this is quite funny. This topic terrifies me. The topic is, take off your hat / head accessory and talk about your hair. So I'm going to start the timer. 15 minutes. I actually want to start crying. So this is really funny. Because yesterday I went to the gender clinic to see my therapist. The thing is, there's like 50 there's even more now because I've been adding more topics to that bag. So there's at least 60 topics in that bag, and it could have been anything. But Dennis, naughty little Dennis, he's picked the most terrifying topic in there. So it's funny because I went to my gender clinic yesterday to see my therapist, and we were talking and stuff, and I said the one thing that I'm really the one thing that I can't see how I'm ever going to be able to accept about myself is my hair. And so what it is I've got, because obviously I'm transgender, I've got bald patches on my hair, on my head. So I always wear a hat, because when I first started presenting as Sophie, the only way I could do it was to wear a hat. It's like, if I didn't, because it's all about like baby steps. You have to, if like trying to present as Sophie was scary enough. The thought of that was scary enough. So I had to find ways to do it in a way that wasn't going to be too overwhelming. So one of the things I did was, I thought if I wear a hat, I haven't got to worry then about showing my bald patches. And that was the only way I was going to ever be able to do it. So that's what I had to do. But what's happened is, it's ended up being a bit of a negative thing, because the hat has now become like a crutch, whereby I need the hat. I can't now go out without a hat on, which is weird, because before I went full time as Sophie, which is going to work and everything, I was, again, like the baby steps, I was every pretty much, well, most days I was going out as Sophie, but I was still going to work as Kevin. So I was still going to work as Kevin, but when I came home, like, I'd go out sketching in the park as Sophie, and it was weird because I didn't know anybody, it didn't really bother me. So what I did was, I could go out showing my bald patches. So that's weird, because that means I can do it. That's what is really weird, is I've done it before. So if I've done it before, I can do it again. It's just because what happened was, when I knew that I had to go to work as me, as Sophie, the thought of them seeing my bald patches and being judged, that was too much. But the thing that's weird is, they already knew that I had bald patches, because when I was there as Kevin, I had the bald patches, which... So if I really think about this, that's the thing, I haven't really thought about it because it scares me. But basically, I've got to take my hat off for this podcast. I'm really scared. Take the hat off. You probably have to watch... That looks quite cool, actually. I've just tipped my hat down, and it looks quite funky. But I think if you watch the podcast, it might be a bit better. But, see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera a little bit, just so I can mess my hair about a bit. Just so that I can play with my hair a bit. So that's basically it. I really dislike the way I look without my hat on. And like, if I push my hair across like that, I can sort of make it look a bit nice. But the thing I've got is, the hair on top of my head just does not seem to grow. And it really bothers me, because it's like the one, well, there's a couple of things, but to me, it's the one of the things that reminds me that I am still sort of Kevin. So that's why I think I'm hiding it. So I got to accept it somehow. But it's weird, because like, my hair on the side of my head is quite... I do like my hair. It's another one of those weird things. I like my hair, but I also don't like my hair. Which is weird, but like, on the top of my head, at the back there, I have a bald patch there, and then at the front I have a bald patch here, and I have another one there. And I just really don't like the way I look with like that. I don't like it at all. But I have to find a way to like it, because that is what I am. So that it's quite strange. But it's really, I'm going to tell a little story. This is one of the funniest things, and it's why I know that the universe is amazing. It is a trickster. I've heard people say that before, but what happened was I was at work, and I was still as Kevin. Yeah, this is the funniest thing ever. So I was at work still as Kevin, and I was going through this phase of knowing that I was close to going to work as Sophie. So at that point I was always thinking about my hair, and this is my hair. My hair and like the bald patches it's been the one thing that has held me back from doing so many things, and it was the biggest stumbling block from me going to work as me, which is why I had to wear the hats, because it was the only way I could do it. I don't want to wear wigs. I can wear wigs, and I do wear wigs when I'm taking photos, but to me, wearing a wig, it just feels just as fake as going to work as Kevin. Because like, you're going to work as Kevin, you're not being true to yourself. If you're wearing a wig, I feel like you're not being true to yourself. Even though you look pretty with a wig, you do look better with a wig. But yeah, I don't want to be wearing a wig. I want to wear a wig if I want to wear a wig. I want to wear a hat if I want to wear a hat. And I want to not wear anything if I don't want to wear anything. But at the moment, I have to wear a hat. So even though I'm not wearing wigs because I feel like that's fake, in a strange way, you could say wearing a hat is also not being true to yourself. But this little story that's really funny is I was at work. There's two things about this. So I was at work, and in the warehouse, I work as a cleaner. So I was going through the warehouse to get some supplies, and in the warehouse they have this massive concrete block. It's like coming off the ceiling, and it just touches like if you're quite tall, your head will go into it. So if you're not fully aware and you don't duck, you're gonna smash your head into that. So I was going through this warehouse thinking about my hair and stuff, because at that time it was always on my mind. And this is the funniest thing ever. I was walking through the warehouse. I smashed my head into the concrete block, and it took a massive chunk off my head. Now this is what's the funniest thing. It took a chunk right in the middle, or like right next to my bald patch at the front of my head, which made that bald patch even bigger because it was like so painful and stuff. But it took a chunk of my head off, a chunk of my head, and it was like it must have been about an inch by an inch. It was quite a lot, and it had hair on it. And it was, when I looked in the mirror, when I got home, because I didn't do anything at the time, when I got home and looked at it, you could not have placed it more perfect. It was, and I knew it was the universe. It had placed it there as if to say, look, there was two things I learnt from that. It was, one, if you haven't got awareness, you've got to be aware all the time, because otherwise you're going to hurt yourself. The other thing was, when you rush, you delay, because I was rushing through the warehouse. That's why I was rushing through the warehouse again, and I thought that's one of the things that, because there's an affirmation on my website: when you rush, you delay. And that's what I thought of. In that moment, I thought if I wasn't rushing, I would have been more aware, and I wouldn't have hit my head. But it was just amazing the position of it, and I just started laughing when I realised that the position of it. I started laughing, but it's like now it's a constant reminder, because it's probably about there, and I don't know if you can see on there, but it's just a bit more than it is on the other side, and it's just enough that I can't sort of cover it by doing that. So it's just really funny. I just thought it was really funny, and I learnt a lot there. So that's basically it, really. What have we got here? We've got 5 minutes. I think that's pretty much it, really. I think I'm a little bit scared about putting this one up. I'm going to be a bit scared. I like that. When you put your hat, if you put a beret over your head and tip it forward, it looks quite cool. I've not done that before. So, I do not know how... I was saying this to my therapist yesterday. This is what I think is amazing, is I was talking about this to my therapist, saying about how my hair is something I can't see how I'm ever going to be able to accept. And then this topic comes out. The same thing happened last week, where the topic that I really wanted to talk about, which was what was I struggling with, it came out, and that allowed me to work out the struggle, because I was talking about it. Again, I think that might be the way I can overcome this, is just talking about it. Because, like, wearing the hat, I'm hiding my hair, and if I'm hiding my hair, I'm not talking about it. This is all mental. This is why I know the mind is key, because I've got this little quote that I've come up with, which I'm going to make into an affirmation in the future. And an affirmation is just like a little thing you say, and you keep repeating it, and it basically just puts you in a positive place. But this little affirmation I've got is, if you can get your mind in the right place, you can do anything. I really believe that. So at the moment, my mind isn't in the right place, but I think it's getting there. But this is all mental, because it doesn't even matter what anybody thinks. Like, people might look at me without my hat on, and they might judge me, but it doesn't matter. The only person who matters is yourself. So, like, I'm the one that's judging myself the most. So if I can get to a place where I am, at the moment I guess I'm insecure about my hair, so that means if anybody says anything, it's going to affect me. That's probably why I need the hat at the moment. But I need to get to a place where I'm so content with my hair. If I can accept my hair the way it is, anybody can say anything and it won't bother me. Because this is why this podcast is quite a scary one, because sort of putting myself out there, somebody might send me something negative about my hair, and it could affect me quite badly. But I love putting hair in front of your face. I wonder why my hair doesn't grow on top of my head. It really is weird. It just doesn't grow on top of my head. It's like stayed really quite short. Yeah, but it's all about getting your mind in the right place. But I think even if somebody said something negative, it would be a positive, because sometimes you need somebody to say something negative in order to be able to understand what's causing it. Because again, in 2016, I got massive transgender abuse. I was actually wearing a wig at the time, and this was when I was just starting to go out. I got massive transgender abuse, and it led to like suicide bits. It led to like a suicide phase, but that was the best thing that ever happened, because that's when I dropped the wigs and I started going out without any wigs on. And then it's only when I started going to work as myself, so going full time, that I pulled back a bit by wearing the hats. So again, I think even this could be seen as like iterating in public. You go out, and I've always said it's like when you're trying to find the balance, you have to push both ways. It's like a pendulum swinging. I think the key is to get the pendulum in the middle, because like what I do is I push one way. So for instance, I'll go out wearing a wig, it doesn't feel right, so I'll push exactly in the opposite direction, and I'll go out without any wigs on. That's 15 minutes. I'll go out without any wigs on, but then you pull back a bit, and then in the middle that's what I'm saying. I want to get to a place where I can go out with a wig on if I want, a hat on if I want, or nothing if I want. But you can only get there if you are completely secure with yourself, and I'm not at the moment. So I guess that's why I'm swinging back and forth. That's basically this week's podcast, really. No, I didn't do. I didn't do that at the start. That's Dennis's fault. That's Dennis's fault because he distracted me. So I'm going to let Dennis... And that's... Dennis done the little bong this time. Well, that's basically it really for this week's podcast. And I don't know, I'm going to... This is the biggest struggle. The biggest struggle. Acceptance. That's basically it really for this week's podcast. If you've got any comments or anything, you can send me a message, and I'll put links and everything in the show notes at sophiedawson.com. And pretty much that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And this week's quote, again, it's just everything at the moment is like one big massive synchronicity, because what I've been doing for the last few episodes is I've been randomly pulling quotes out of books and stuff. But for this one, I thought, I'm actually going to pick a quote before I do it. And the quote I've picked is perfect for this topic. So this topic is all about the mind, getting your mind into a nice place so that you can accept yourself, so that when somebody says something negative, it doesn't bother you. And what I've realised is if you get your mind in the right place, people won't say anything negative anyway, because they can see that it's not going to bother you. And I think that's what it is. They somehow, I've said this before, when your thoughts, I'm convinced your thoughts are almost like radiating out of you. And I feel like everybody is picking up on everyone else's thoughts. We're just not aware of it. I'm convinced of that. So if I go out without a hat on, and I've got these negative thoughts in my head, they are going to be radiating out, and other people are going to sense that. So if you've got somebody who wants to, they could pounce on that. And then this is where I've talked about it before, it's like positive and negative is constantly, I think life, everything is about positive and negative, trying to find balance. So, but you got to work on yourself first. So the quote, which is amazing, it's from Lisa M. Hayes, and it is amazing. It's, be careful how you are talking to yourself, because you are listening. I love that quote. And that's basically it with me, is with my hair. If I'm inside my head saying, you got bald patches, constantly negative, you're going to end up creating the thing. This is why I love affirmations. Affirmations are positive things. You keep repeating these affirmations, and in the end you end up out-talking the negativity. So I think that's what life's all about, really, is out-talking the negativity. So this week's inspirational quote, be careful how you are talking to yourself. If you can hear that noise on the podcast, because I've noticed it's quite a loud noise actually. It's the fridge, because I've got a little mini fridge right next to this desk, and it keeps kicking in. So that's what makes that noise on the podcast. I'm trying to work out a way to move the microphones and stuff so it doesn't pick it up. I thought I would just mention that because I've noticed it when I'm editing the podcasts, putting the music on and stuff. But that's basically it. So this week's inspirational quote, be careful how you are talking to yourself, because you are listening. Lisa M. Hayes.